In today's gaming news, Warhammer 40k Eternal Crusade gets an update, Far Cry 4 will have Day 1 DLC, and turns out sending death threats is bad, even as a developer. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. This is Force here with your day's gaming news. First up today, Warhammer 40k is an upcoming third-person MMORPG set in the Warhammer 40k universe, and it has recently gotten a visual update. In a video released from Behavior Interactive showing a full 2 minutes of the visual overhaul for updated models for the game. Now, there's nothing particularly interesting about this other than it's showing the development of the game as it makes its way through alpha, and the reason I am bringing it up is because Warhammer 40k is a title that I do have some interest in, so I just wanted to, I guess, show you the process of how things are coming along. I mean, if nothing else, the most obvious difference between the two comparison shots is the gamma. I can barely see anything in the updated graphics. They might want to adjust that just a wee bit. Next up in news, Far Cry 4 is launching in just a few weeks, and it already has news of Day 1 DLC that will be exclusive to Season Pass holders. The Season Pass is available for $29.99 and includes exclusive access to Day 1 missions, as well as the Overrun PvP mode and the Valley of the Yetis, which is an explorable area filled with single-player and co-op missions, as well as a bunch of Yetis. What the frick? Day 1 DLC, I just can't. Whenever it happens, it is so frustrating. For the longest time, I just wrote that stuff off. As season passes, Day 1 DLC, all that stuff, like, whatever. But as it continues to happen more and more often with more AAA titles, I really just get increasingly annoyed, if nothing else. Now, let's be perfectly honest here. The stuff that they're including in this Day 1 DLC, which is some mission, is probably a throwaway. It's probably junk. It's probably not worth the price of the DLC or the season pass or whatever, but it's still annoying that this content is being withheld. And this is just a constant sort of, beating a dead horse, going around in circles, whatever. The same arguments are going to be made every single time this comes up. So what do you do? What do you do? I guess you can just choose to live with it, which I suppose is basically what I've done, except I'll probably continue to express my annoyance whenever something like this does come up. It's still freaking, come on. Whatever, moving on. And last up in news today, there's been an interesting development over the past 24 hours, and that is that Paranautical Activity developer Mike Malbec tweeted out a death threat to Gabe Newell, and surprise, surprise, his game then got pulled from Steam. So Paranautical Activity officially launched, but was posted on the Steam front page as an early access game. And Mike Malbec then went on a Twitter rampage expressing his frustrations, which culminated with the tweet, "I am going to kill Gabe Newell. He is going to die." Facepalm of the century. What are you doing? What are you thinking? And what? Stupid. Incredibly stupid. Now, Paranautical Activity is a game that's had a series of issues with Valve and with Steam. It goes all the way back to when the game was going through the greenlight process, and they tried to get a publisher, at which point Valve and Steam basically said, this is not going to allow you to bypass the greenlight process just because you're getting a publisher that has published games on our platform, on our distribution platform before. So there was a whole big tussle about that, and people were upset. Yeah, this was all news quite some time ago. And then obviously you launch your game and you want it to be displayed as launch, not as early access. Clearly frustrating, especially if you're getting attacked by the community saying that they are accusing you of doing it so that you can avoid critique of your game for whatever reason. All of that, a reasonable reason to be upset. But to go on a Twitter rampage and then issue a death threat to Gabe Newell, no matter how toothless it was, no matter how, he wasn't actually going to kill him. I mean, I don't know, maybe. Crazy stuff happens. There are crazy people out there who actually kill their people. Newsflash. But it seems like he was just doing this because he was upset, because he was frustrated. But just a boneheaded move. And really, especially as the head of a development studio, what are you thinking? What are you thinking? Not only does it affect him, it affects everyone on his team. The game is no longer available for sale on Steam, so everyone who spent years working on this title, and sure, he was the head of the studio, but there are other people's lives involved. There are other people who were hoping this game was going to be a success, and sure, it could still do well on its own, but let's not lie. Steam kind of has a bit of a monopoly on PC distribution because it's so damn popular and so many people like it. These are thoughts that should go through your mind before you issue a death threat to Gabe frickin' Newell. I'm just saying. All right, guys, that's gonna do it for today's episode of The Feed. As always, thank you so much for watching. My face still hurts a little bit from slap. That face palm was so very hard. As always, please be sure to comment in the comment section below about any of the topics discussed here today. Check out that Warhammer 40k Eternal Crusade graphical comparison video. Let me know what you think about the Gamma. How do you feel about Day 1 DLC continuing to happen? And this whole paranautical activity debacle, I mean, I'm assuming those of you watching have enough sense not to send death threats, even whether or not you're the head of a studio, even if you're just some anonymous Joe Schmo on the internet, just be a decent frickin' human, please. Have a good afternoon, guys. I'll see you later. Once again, this has been Force, and you have just been force-fed. Now, here's the kicker. The best part of all of this is he later issued an apology in which he said that if he continues in games, it'll be as one of 1,000 at some shitty corporation and not the most public figure of a single-digit-sized team. Right over his head. Everything that's taking place here, he apparently doesn't understand that the problem is sending death threats to people on the internet, no matter how thinly veiled they actually are. No, unless your goal in life is to be just some shitty internet troll and a terrible human being, I would move on to, trying to grow up. But, leave that as option 2, because we don't want to grow up.